In the last podcast, I talked about the occult. I mentioned how different orders carry out symbolical rites divided into grades or degrees. You have the Freemasons, the Oddfellows, the Druids, the Rosicrucians, the Martinists, Illuminati, Templars of every fanciful shade, Dark Satanists, Wicca, and a bunch of other organizations borrowing these names. I mentioned some of these in the last podcast, but this listing just scratches the surface. For behind each one of these labels there are many variants, like the Freemasons of a number of different rites. They come in very many shapes and colors, and all performing symbolical rites in a variety of degrees, from the Martinist and Blue Masonry's 3 degrees to the Mizraim Memphis Masonry working in 99. In whichever way such rites are organized, there remain varieties of symbolical teaching, more or less, usually less, connected to the traditions of varying age and origin, yet never as old as they boast about. The number of symbolical orders and organizations working in the world today is beyond my ability to count. One reason is that from one order of a certain age, new branches try to reach the sky, moving farther and farther away from the trunk, where, possibly, the work sucks directly from the traditional root. Exactly like the church, organizations branch off due to different interpretations developed by a dominant ego, collecting his or her devotees into a subversive congregation, once strong enough, separating and forming a new variant of the same organization or a sectarian church. There is always ample room for those superegos, where faith is stronger than knowledge, and individual wish to stand out override intelligence. Emptiness shows by its need to look great. We say empty barrels make most noise. The reason I bring up this issue is to make you aware of all the trees in the wood, and how difficult it is to find a tree worth climbing. With very few exceptions, the orders and organizations claiming to be keepers of the true esoteric knowledge are false and fake. Some are also very unhealthy both to you and to society, but I'm not going to take that matter further here. Even so, some are performing rites that do include valuable teaching if you are able to understand that which even the heads of the order may not see. Rites are sometimes performed the way they may have been performed for the past couple of centuries, even though the content is lost. Therefore, understanding the content may be a challenge, even to the lodge master. You may be a member of a Masonic or other lodge. You may have been taken through a number of symbolical rites, through a number of grades, perhaps even through them all. Ask yourself what you have gathered from those ceremonies. Often you will say, like Masons belonging to a Christian lodge, that you have adopted some moral attitudes and become a better human being, as they say. You have made use of the symbols, working on yourself. This is not necessarily useless, but often illusory, and only cultivation of your ego, your self-esteem. It looks good. I need to point to the fact that religious addiction and ego cultivation under any label will take you nowhere. Likewise, symbolical instruction and work alone is mostly useless or at best intellectual spin, because both religious and other preconceptions that you hold will be barriers to any content. It is a matter of fact that I have observed so often that it washes away any doubt that preconceptions of any kind colors the intellectual interpretation, creating a meaning that distorts the message. If the symbolical work carries a message, which it sometimes really does, it is intended to seep through to you subliminally and find a place deep in your mind. Once you start interpreting intellectually, any religious or other frame you hold will take you astray. There is no religion, no philosophy to match the esoteric. That is the very reason it is considered esoteric, internal. It is not a teaching, it is experience. You cannot describe in terms of words. That is why it belongs to the occult. This is where we may begin to talk about initiation. You cannot learn the occult, but you may be initiated into it. No ceremony, however elaborate, however intelligently symbols are manipulated, may perform a true initiation. It will only be an introductory symbolical journey at the very best. It may stir you intellectually. It may move you emotionally. It may, at the very best, prepare you, but there it stops. At one point, the symbolical ceremony, a series of graded ceremonies, concludes, and there is no continuation. You are left high and dry. As I said, initiation is not an intellectual or an emotional process. It goes beyond both, and it may be as immediate as the strike of a lightning. Obviously, I will not be able to describe the indescribable, but I will try to give you an idea. Initiation is sometimes described as myth. Some myths of ancient days describe different initiatory elements, such as the descent into the realms of the dead, and ascent into a realm of light. This is why myths are often at the core of symbolical systems employed by various orders. You may read them as accounts of an initiatory process when mystery opens up, but the mystic experience itself is never described. It is indescribable and can never be completely comprehended. I would like to quote Mircea Eliade, who said, quote, "Initiatory death is necessary for the beginning of spiritual life. It lays the foundation for rebirth to a higher level of being." Unquote. I would add that it is a very important first step, as Eliade says, a rebirth, which is a new beginning. This is where the process begins, by turning around to face that which most people fear, namely death. Meeting with death is a wholly spiritual experience happening while you remain physically alive. It is a journey into deep levels of existence that few are prepared to undertake, hence the need for some symbolical preparation. Further, an initiatory journey is absolutely individual. You are utterly alone. It is necessary not only to have the symbolical preparation derived from myth, alchemy, Kabbalah, or other systems of occultism. You need to clear your mind beyond the intellectual or mental and reach into your spiritual level. It requires more than religious repetition of prayers, meditation, and yoga. It requires a house cleaning to rid yourself of worldly rubbish as well as of thought patterns and unethical tendencies residing in your house. It's a deep process of introspection and will to clear up. Undertaking the initiatory journey, you aim at transcending the ordinary human condition and face the transhuman reality. You reach towards what, in the language of Friedrich Nietzsche, be considered the superhuman. I have to adjust a little, making clear that this does not mean being able to wield fictive, human-like superhuman powers. Yet it takes you out of the ordinary in a way that is almost invisible to others, because it changes your mindset and your attitudes in a remarkable way. Your integrity as a person becomes unassailable. You will know when you are ready, Certain things just start to happen, and one day you will face not only death, but learn to know your inner master, your guide to the unknowable. Gradually, you will begin to enter realms beyond your imagination. Facing death, you cross a threshold. What lies behind the gates of death is life. Very few understand this. It is life of a very different reality, entirely encompassing everyday life. In this perspective, ordinary human considerations becomes utterly insignificant, in spite of its real importance. And this is a paradox. The initiatory process will develop in the depth of your consciousness. You will travel inside as if on a stream of consciousness, often stripped of thought, of the cognitive. You may face terror, pass through darkness beyond your imagination, and face difficult tests. Many are those who fall back from these nightmares and cling to ordinary life, often deeply disturbed. Perseverance is the key. Insight is the tool, and sincere holiness is the base. After suffering the desert pilgrimage, passing the bridge and climbing the mountain, you reach a view of the beyond. The world opens up, and you may connect with beings that will take you even further. A hand will swipe the sky, and you will fly naked through the cosmos, see and learn, and become a different human being. Initiation is an endless experience. It goes beyond the beyond, and headless for your mind is incapable of translating such realities as you are immersed in the cosmic. You are a fragment floating in its immensity. Beyond words and terms, it reaches deep into your being, which no longer is what it was before.